The message came on a quiet Tuesday morning. Captain Hee-jin Kim was drinking his coffee in the control room of the Earth Defense Force headquarters when every screen suddenly went dark. Then, one by one, they lit up with strange symbols that no human had ever seen before. "Sir, you need to see this," called out Commander Jae-yun Park, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Her usually calm face showed worry as she worked to understand the alien code streaming across their screens. Hee-jin put down his coffee cup and walked to her station. He had trained for 15 years for this moment, but nothing could truly prepare anyone for humanity's first contact with aliens. "Can you decode it?" he asked, keeping his voice steady despite his racing heart. "The computer is working on it now," Jae-yun replied. "But sir, this signal, it's coming from just beyond the moon. Whatever sent this is very close." The room fell silent as everyone watched the main screen. After 3 tense minutes, the alien symbols began changing into English letters. The message was simple. "We come in peace. We are the Valari. We wish to meet." Hee-jin straightened his uniform and pressed the button for the ship-wide announcement. "All crew to battle stations. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." Within an hour, Hee-jin stood on the bridge of the EDF Resilience, Earth's most advanced spaceship. His crew worked quietly at their stations, each person aware of how important this moment was for human history. Through the main window they could see it, a massive silver ship that looked like flowing water frozen in space. "Captain," Jae-yun called out, "they're sending another message. They want to dock with us." Hee-jin nodded slowly. "Tell them we accept, but keep our shields at full power, just in case." And Jae-yun, he turned to look at his second-in-command. "I want you to record everything. Every word, every movement, everything." The docking process was smooth, almost too smooth. When the airlock opened, Hee-jin led a small team to meet their visitors. The aliens that stepped through were tall and elegant, with silver skin that seemed to shimmer like their ship. Their leader, who called himself Representative Dal, bowed in a surprisingly human gesture. "Captain Hee-jin Kim." Dal spoke in perfect English, his voice melodic and soothing. "We have watched your species for some time. Your potential is remarkable. We wish to share our knowledge with you." Jae-yun stepped forward slightly, her hand never far from her weapon. "Why now?" she asked. "Why choose this moment to reveal yourselves?" Dal smiled, or at least made an expression that looked like a smile. "Because you are ready. We have seen your wars, your struggles, but also your achievements. We believe it is time for humanity to join the galactic community." Over the next few hours, the Valari showed them amazing things. They displayed holograms of distant worlds, demonstrated technology that seemed like magic, and spoke of bringing Earth into a new age of prosperity. But something felt wrong to Hee-jin. The aliens were too perfect, their answers too smooth. When they offered to begin sharing their technology immediately, alarm bells rang in his head. "We need time to discuss this with Earth's leaders," Hee-jin said carefully. "Such important decisions cannot be made by one ship's captain." "Of course," Dal replied, still smiling that strange smile. "We understand. Take all the time you need. We will remain here, ready to help whenever you decide." Later, in his private quarters, Hee-jin reviewed the recordings with Jae-yun. "Something's not right," she said, playing back the footage. "Look at how they never actually answer direct questions about their society and their technology. It's impressive, but they're only showing us weapons and defense systems. Why not medical technology or food production?" Hee-jin nodded, his face serious. "Send a coded message to Earth Command. Tell them we need to be very careful with our new friends." He looked out his window at the beautiful alien ship. "I have a feeling the Valari aren't telling us everything." As the Earth celebrated first contact with an alien race, only a few people noticed the small ships appearing at the edge of the solar system. Tiny dots on long-range scanners, moving into position like pieces on a chessboard. The game had begun, but only one side knew they were playing. 3 months after first contact, Dr. Duyumbli stood in his laboratory, staring at the strange piece of alien technology on his desk. The Valari had called it a peace offering, a simple power generator that could supply energy to an entire city. But something about it bothered him. "Run the scan again," he told his computer. This was the 15th time today. But Duyum had learned to trust his gut feelings. 20 years of studying technology had taught him that nothing was ever as simple as it seemed. His screen blinked with new data, and his eyes widened. "There it is," he whispered, quickly saving the results. Hidden deep in the generator's code was a tiny program, waiting silently like a sleeping virus. Before he could analyze it further, his lab door opened. Lieutenant Sun Mikang walked in, still wearing the special suit she used for her undercover missions. Her face was serious. "Doctor, we need to talk," she said, checking to make sure they were alone. "I just got back from the Valari ship. What I found." She stopped, looking worried. Duyum pressed a button under his desk that would block any listening devices. "Tell me everything." Sun Me pulled out a small device and showed him pictures she had taken inside the alien ship. "These are their real weapons," she said. "Nothing like the simple defense tools they showed us. And look at this." She pointed to a map on her screen. "They have ships positioned all around our solar system. Hundreds of them, hiding behind planets and moons." Duyum felt his heart sink, just like Captain Hejin feared. "The technology they gave us, it's all connected." He turned to his computer and pulled up his findings. "See these hidden programs. They're in everything the Valari gave us. The power generators, the farming equipment, even the medical supplies. They're all waiting for some kind of signal." At that moment, both their phones buzzed with an emergency message from Commander Jae-yun. "Meeting in Bunker 7. Now, don't tell anyone." 20 minutes later, they sat in a secret room deep underground with Captain Hejin, Commander Jae-yun, and other top military leaders. The room was dark except for the glow of screens showing data from around the world. "It's worse than we thought," Hejin said, his voice heavy. "The Valari aren't just giving technology to us. They're giving different pieces to different countries, making everyone dependent on them in different ways. And today, we intercepted this." He played a message they had caught between Valari ships. The aliens spoke in their own language, but Earth's computers had finally cracked their code. The translation was clear. Phase 1 complete. Begin Phase 2 at next orbit. Jae-yun stood up and pointed to a world map. "Their ships are moving. Whatever they're planning, it's happening soon. We need to warn everyone," Sun Mai said, but Hejin shook his head. "The Valari have spies everywhere. If we make any obvious moves, they'll know we've discovered their plan." He looked at each person in the room. "We need to be smart about this." Duyung raised his hand. "Captain, I think I know what they're planning to do with all this hidden code in their technology. They're building a kill switch. When they give the signal, everything they gave us will either shut down or turn against us." The room fell silent as everyone realized what this meant. Hospitals using Valari medical equipment, cities powered by their generators, farms depending on their machinery. Everything would stop working at once. "How long do we have?" Jae-yun asked. "Based on their ship movements," Sun Mai answered, looking at her data. "Maybe 3 days." Hejin stood up, his face determined. "Then we have 3 days to prepare Earth's defenses without letting them know we know." He turned to Duyung. "Can you find a way to block their signal?" "Maybe," Duyung said, already thinking about possibilities. "But we'll need help from every scientist we can trust." "Do it," Hejin ordered. "And everyone remember, act normal. Let them think their plan is working. The Valari believe they're smarter than us. That will be their biggest mistake." As they left the bunker one by one, none of them noticed the tiny alien probe floating high above the city, watching their every move. The countdown to invasion had already begun. They came at dawn. Captain He-Jin Kim was awakened by the sound of every alarm in his underground command center going off at once. He ran to the main control room, still putting on his uniform jacket. The screens showed thousands of Valari ships appearing from behind the Moon, Mars, and the outer planets. They had been hiding there all along. "Status report," he shouted as he entered the room. Commander Jai-Yun looked up from her station, her face pale. "Sir, they're everywhere. And all the technology they gave us, it's turned against us, just like Dr. Du-Young warned." Around the world, chaos erupted. Hospitals lost power as Valari generators shut down. Farming machines turned into weapons. Communication systems went dark. The aliens had planned everything perfectly, or so they thought. "Send the emergency signal," He-Jin ordered. "Get all our people to the backup stations." For 3 days, they had secretly prepared. While pretending everything was normal, they had moved key personnel to hidden bunkers. Old equipment that didn't use alien technology had been taken out of storage. It wasn't much, but it was something. The first wave of alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere. They were beautiful and terrible, like silver drops of rain falling from the sky. Their weapons turned city after city dark as they shut down power grids. In his laboratory deep underground, Dr. Du-Young worked frantically at his computer. Lieutenant Sun-Mei stood guard at the door, her weapon ready. "How much longer?" she asked, hearing explosions above ground. "Almost there," Du-Young said, typing faster. "The program is ready, but we'll only get one chance at this." In the command center, He-Jin watched as Earth's major cities fell under attack. The Valari's message played on every working screen. "Surrender now, and we will spare your lives. Resist and face extinction." "Sir," Jai-Yun called out, "Washington is dark. London is dark. Beijing is dark. Seoul is." She paused as another light went out on her screen. "Seoul is dark." He-Jin nodded grimly. "Just as we expected. Send the coded message to all resistance cells. Hold position. Wait for the signal." Above ground, people ran in panic as alien ships filled the skies. The Valari technology that everyone had trusted now turned streets into traps. Cars stopped working. Phones went dead. Even kitchen appliances sparked and smoked. But in hidden bunkers around the world, small groups of soldiers and scientists watched and waited. They used old radio equipment that the Valari had thought too primitive to worry about. They had emergency supplies stored in places that didn't show up on any modern maps. Representative Dahl's face appeared on the emergency broadcast system. His kind smile now looked cruel. "People of Earth," he said, "you trusted us too easily. You relied too heavily on gifts you didn't understand. Now you will serve the Valari Empire." In his bunker, He-Jin smiled for the first time that day. "No," he said quietly, "you trusted too easily. You thought we would put all our faith in technology we didn't create." A message came in from Du-Young's lab. "Program ready. Waiting for your command." He-Jin looked at his team. They had trained for this moment in secret, preparing for the worst while hoping it would never come. "Send the response to all commands," he ordered. "The message is simple. Remember rule number 1. Jai-Yun typed quickly, sending the message through their hidden network. Around the world, resistance leaders received it and prepared their teams. The Valari ships continued their attack, their commanders confident in their victory. They had disabled Earth's modern weapons. They had shut down Earth's power. They had trapped humans in their own cities. But they had forgotten something important. They had forgotten that humans had fought wars long before they had modern technology. They had forgotten that every human soldier learned one basic rule before anything else. As the sun set on the first day of the invasion, He-Jin sent one final message to his forces. "Wait until dark. Then show them why you never underestimate humans." The real battle was about to begin. Deep in the mountains of Korea, in a bunker carved from solid rock, Captain He-Jin Kim stood before the last free military leaders of Earth. The room was lit by old-fashioned fuel lamps, nothing electronic that the Valari could track. Maps covered the walls, marked with pen and paper instead of digital displays. 3 days ago, Hujin said, looking at each face in the room, the Valari thought they had won. They believe we are finished because they turned off our power and our modern weapons. He paused, allowing himself a small smile. They don't understand rule number 1. Commander Jai-yun stepped forward, unrolling a large paper map on the table. For those who don't know, she said, every soldier learns rule number 1 on their first day of training. But it's more than just a military rule. It's part of human nature. Lieutenant Sun Mai entered the room, carrying a heavy box. "Sir," she said to Hejin, "Dr. Du Young says it's ready." Hejin nodded and opened the box. Inside were small devices that looked like old radio parts. "These," he said, holding one up, "are our secret weapon. Dr. Du Young calls them ghost boxes. They're completely mechanical. No electronic parts the Valari can shut down." Around the table, faces began to show understanding. These leaders had fought in wars before. They knew what Hejin was planning. Rule number 1, Hejin continued, is simple. Never fight fair when survival is at stake. He looked around the room again. The Valari think they're fighting fair. They think they've given us a chance to surrender. They think they're being honorable. He shook his head. But we're not fighting for honor. We're fighting for survival. Jai-yun pointed to different locations on the map. We have hidden bases here, here, and here. Old military bunkers from the last World War. Places so old they don't appear on any modern maps. The Valari don't know about them because they only study our current technology. But what about their ships? Someone asked. Their weapons are still working. Hejin picked up another device from the box. Dr. Du Young discovered something interesting about Valari technology. It all operates on the same basic principle, something they call unified field theory. They're so proud of it, they built everything using this one system. His smile grew wider. And that's their weakness. In his laboratory, Dr. Du Young was explaining the same thing to his team of scientists. The ghost boxes create interference, he said, showing them the simple mechanical parts. Not electronic interference. That's what the Valari expect. This is something much more basic. Something they forgot about because their technology is too advanced. Back in the mountain bunker, Hejin was finishing his explanation. The ghost boxes create vibrations. Simple, mechanical vibrations that disrupt the Valari's unified field. Their ships will still fly, but their fancy weapons won't work. Their shields will fail. And they won't know why because they're looking for electronic attacks, not physical ones. When do we start? Sun Mai asked, checking her old but reliable rifle. Tonight, Hejin answered. The Valari think we're hiding in fear. They don't realize we've been preparing. He pulled out an old-style radio. We have resistance groups around the world, armed with weapons so old the aliens think they're harmless. We have soldiers trained to fight without modern technology. We have plans they can't hack because they're written on paper. Jai-yun started handing out the ghost boxes. Remember, she said, we're not trying to match their technology. We're not trying to fight fair. We're going to win because we're willing to do whatever it takes. As the leaders left the room, each carrying their ghost boxes and their orders, Hejin looked at the map one last time. The Valari had taken their cities, their power, and their modern weapons. But they had forgotten the most important thing about humans. They forgot rule number 1, he said quietly. And that's going to cost them everything. Outside, the sun was setting. In the darkness, humanity would show the aliens why Earth had never been conquered. Not with advanced weapons or fancy technology, but with the one thing humans did better than any species in the galaxy: survive by any means necessary. Dr. Du Young's fingers moved quickly over the mechanical controls of Project Phoenix. The old military base around him was dark except for fuel lamps and the glow of his ghost box screens. 20 years ago, this place had been abandoned. Now it was humanity's best hope. "Start the activation sequence," he told his team. "Remember, no electronic signals. Use the mechanical transmitters only." Across the room, engineers turned heavy metal cranks that powered the transmitters. The ghost boxes hummed to life, sending invisible waves of disruption through the air. They weren't using electricity or radio waves, just simple mechanical vibrations that the Valari's advanced sensors couldn't detect. Above ground, Commander Jai-yun led her stealth team through the ruins of Seoul. They wore simple clothes and carried basic weapons, nothing that would show up on alien scans. Each person had a ghost box hidden under their clothes. "Look," whispered one of her soldiers, pointing up. A Valari patrol ship floated overhead, its silver surface gleaming in the moonlight. But something was different. The ship's usual smooth movement had become slightly jerky, as if it was fighting against invisible turbulence. Jai-yun smiled. The ghost boxes were working. In his command bunker, Captain He-jin watched through old binoculars as more Valari ships began to show signs of trouble. Their perfect formation was breaking apart. Some ships dipped and swayed as if caught in a storm. "Send the signal," he ordered. "Tell all teams, Project Phoenix is working. Begin Phase 2. Lieutenant Sunmi's team was already in position near the main Valari landing zone. They had spent days hiding in the rubble, studying the aliens' patterns. Now they watched as the ghost box's effects grew stronger. "Look at their weapons," Sunmi whispered to her team. The Valari's energy cannons were sparking and shutting down. Their force fields flickered and failed. Without their advanced technology, they were vulnerable. In his laboratory, Du-young activated the second part of Project Phoenix. This was the part he hadn't told anyone except He-jin about, the part that seemed almost too simple to work. "Release the nanites," he ordered. Hidden in old water towers and underground pipes around the city, millions of tiny mechanical devices came to life. They weren't electronic or digital. They were purely mechanical, like microscopic wind-up toys. The Valari sensors couldn't detect them because they were looking for electronic signals, not tiny moving parts. The nanites began to spread, carried by the wind and rain. They crawled into Valari ships through air vents and maintenance hatches. Their simple mechanical programming had one goal: find and disable alien technology. On his command screen, He-jin watched as more and more Valari ships began to fail. Some lost power completely. Others fired weapons that didn't work. The aliens were panicking, trying to understand what was happening to their perfect technology. "Sir," Jai-yun's voice came through on the mechanical radio. "Their ground forces are retreating. They can't maintain their shield walls. Should we attack?" "Not yet," He-jin replied. "Let them run. Let them see that their technology isn't as perfect as they thought." In the Valari command ship, Representative Dal was furious. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "We shut down all their advanced weapons. We disabled their power grid. They're using primitive technology." But that was exactly why humans were winning. The Valari had forgotten that simple things could be the most dangerous. They had forgotten that humans had fought wars long before they had computers and energy weapons. Dr. Du-young watched his screens as Project Phoenix spread across the city. The nanites were multiplying now, using simple mechanical processes to create more of themselves from any metal they found. They were like a flood of tiny soldiers, dismantling the Valari's advanced technology piece by piece. "Send word to Captain He-jin," he said to his team. "Tell him Phase 2 is complete. We're ready for the final attack." Outside, the sound of Valari ships crashing filled the air. Humanity's hidden arsenal wasn't made of powerful weapons or advanced technology. It was made of simple machines, basic principles, and the one thing humans did better than anyone else: finding a way to win no matter what. Captain He-jin looked at his old pocket watch. It was time. "Begin Operation Switchblade," he ordered into his mechanical radio. Around the world, resistance fighters had waited for this moment. Lieutenant Sunmi led her team through the dark streets of Seoul. Each fighter carried a backpack full of ghost boxes. The mechanical nanites had already done their work, weakening the Valari defenses. Now it was time to strike. Plant them at every corner, Sunmite ordered, just like we practiced. Her team moved quickly, placing ghost boxes in hidden spots. Each one would add to the disruption field that was driving the aliens crazy. Inside the Valari command ship, Representative Dahl was getting desperate reports from all directions. Our shields are failing. Weapons systems won't respond. Something is eating through our hull. Dahl slammed his fist on his control panel. How are they doing this? They're supposed to be helpless without their technology. In his underground lab, Dr. Du Young smiled as he watched his screens. The nanites were working better than he had hoped. These tiny mechanical workers were taking apart Valari ships piece by piece. No electronics, no computers, just millions of tiny gears and springs working together. Send in the second wave, he ordered. His team started up more mechanical pumps, releasing another flood of nanites into the city's water system. These ones were even simpler, designed only to climb and multiply. Commander Jai-Yun's voice crackled over the radio. Sir, the Valari ground forces are in chaos. Their armor isn't working. Their weapons are falling apart. Should we move in? He-Jin looked at his maps. The aliens were retreating to their ships, but their ships weren't working right either. Perfect. Yes, he said. Tell all teams to begin Phase 3. Across the city, resistance fighters emerged from hiding. They didn't use fancy guns or modern weapons. They used simple tools, bows and arrows that could pierce the aliens' failing armor, nets to tangle their legs, even slings that could throw the ghost boxes right onto Valari ships. Sun Mi's team reached their main target, the Valari's ground control center. The aliens had set it up in what used to be City Hall. Now its perfect silver walls were turning dull gray as nanites crawled all over it. Look at their faces, one of her team members whispered. Through the windows, they could see the Valari officers panicking. Nothing in their advanced training had prepared them for enemies they couldn't even detect. High above the city, Dahl tried to restore order to his forces. Launch the city killer weapons, he commanded. If we can't have this world, no one will. But nothing happened. The huge weapons on his ship stayed silent. The nanites had already gotten inside them, taking them apart screw by screw, gear by gear. In the command bunker, He-Jin received the best news yet. Sir, his radio operator called out, we're getting reports from around the world. The ghost boxes are working everywhere. London, New York, Beijing. The Valari are retreating in every city. He-Jin allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had thought humans would be helpless without modern technology. They had expected people to give up once their computers and power were gone. They had forgotten that humans had been fighting and winning wars long before electricity was invented. Send word to all commands, he ordered. The Valari's technology is failing. Their weapons don't work. Their shields are down. Now we show them how humans really fight. Outside, the sound of alien ships crashing filled the air. The mighty Valari fleet was falling apart, defeated not by advanced weapons, but by simple machines and human determination. Sir, Jai-Yun reported, the aliens are sending out surrender signals. But He-Jin shook his head. No, he said firmly. Not yet. First, we make sure they learn rule number 1. We make sure they never forget what happens when you cornered humans and expect them to fight fair. The real lesson was just beginning. The sun rose over Seoul to reveal a changed world. Broken Valari ships lay in the streets like fallen silver leaves. Commander Jai-Yun watched from a rooftop as human forces emerged from their hidden bunkers all across the city. All teams in position, she reported through her mechanical radio. Ready for final push. In his command center, Captain He-Jin gave the order they had all been waiting for. Begin Operation Thunderclap, he said. All units attack. Across the world, humanity launched its counterattack. In New York, fighters rose from the old subway tunnels. In London, they came from forgotten World War I bunkers. In Beijing, they emerged from ancient underground cities. Every hidden place humans had built over thousands of years became a launching point for attack. Lieutenant Sun Mei led her team toward the largest Valari ship still standing. Its once perfect surface was now covered in crawling nanites, its weapons hanging useless from their mounts. "Look how they run," one of her soldiers said, watching alien crews abandon their failing ships. The Valari, so proud of their advanced technology, didn't know how to fight without it. In his laboratory, Dr. Du Young activated the final wave of nanites. These were his masterpiece, tiny mechanical hunters that could take apart a Valari weapon and rebuild it into a simple human tool. "The nanites are adapting," he reported to He Jin. "They're learning from each ship they take apart. The more the Valari try to fight them, the better they get at breaking down their technology." Representative Dell's voice boomed across the city as he tried one last time to regain control. "Stop this attack," he demanded. "Your primitive machines cannot defeat the most advanced race in the galaxy." But his words were cut short as Commander Jai Yun's team reached the Valari command ship. The ghost boxes had completely shut down its defenses. The mighty ship that had led the invasion now sat helpless as human soldiers climbed aboard. "Ship secured," Jai Yun reported, standing in the alien control room. "You should see this, Captain. Their mighty technology has been reduced to scrap by our primitive machines." He Jin's voice crackled back over the radio. "What about Dal?" "Gone," Jai Yun answered. "He took an escape pod. But don't worry, we tagged it with nanites. He won't get far." Around the world, similar scenes played out. Valari ships fell from the sky or sat dead on the ground. Their crews surrendered to human forces they had dismissed as primitive just days ago. The mighty alien army that had thought victory would be easy was being defeated by the simplest of human inventions. In London, resistance fighters used old fire truck hoses to spray nanite-filled water onto alien ships. In Moscow, they used mechanical catapults to launch ghost boxes high into the air. In Cairo, they released clouds of nanites from ancient temple ventilation shafts. Every human trick, every forgotten technology, every simple solution was turned into a weapon. "Sir," Sun Mai reported from her position, "the Valari are sending out a general retreat signal. Their remaining ships are trying to leave Earth's atmosphere." But He Jin had planned for this too. "Activate the high-altitude ghost boxes," he ordered. Dr. Du Young pressed a series of mechanical levers. Around the world, weather balloons that had been quietly rising for days reached their positions. Each one carried a powerful ghost box. The Valari ships flying up to escape found themselves trapped in a web of disruption fields. "They have nowhere to go now," Jai Yun said, watching from the captured command ship as alien vessels tumbled back to Earth. He Jin nodded to himself. The Valari had come to Earth expecting to find an easy target. Instead, they had learned the hard way that humans were the most dangerous kind of enemy, the kind that never gives up, never fights fair, and uses everything they have to survive. "Send word to all commands," he ordered. "The counterattack is successful. Begin final cleanup operations." He looked at the maps showing human forces advancing everywhere. "And make sure everyone remembers. This is what happens when you forget rule number 1. Captain He Jin stood on top of the rebuilt Earth Defense Force headquarters, watching the sunrise. Below him, Seoul was coming back to life. The broken Valari ships were being taken apart by Dr. Du Young's nanites, turned into useful materials for rebuilding. "Sir," Commander Jai Yun called from behind him. "We found him." He Jin turned around. His officers had brought Representative Dal before him. The alien leader's silver skin had lost its shine, and his proud stance was gone. "You," Dal spat the word, "you primitive creatures. How did you defeat our perfect technology?" He Jin smiled. "That's exactly why we won. You thought technology made you perfect. You forgot that the most dangerous weapon isn't a gun or a spaceship, it's the will to survive." Lieutenant Sun Mai arrived with more news. Sir, Dr. Du Young has finished analyzing their ships. You need to see what he found. In his laboratory, now moved above ground, Du Young showed them his discoveries. The Valari technology is amazing, he said, pointing to his screens. But it all depends on one thing, their unified field theory. Once we disrupted that with our ghost boxes, everything fell apart. Can we use it? Jai-yun asked, looking at the alien devices spread across the lab. Du Young nodded excitedly. Better. We can improve it. The nanites have learned how their technology works. But instead of making everything dependent on one system, we're combining it with our simpler methods. The best of both worlds. He-Jin turned to Dal. You came here thinking you would teach us about advanced technology. Instead, we're going to teach you about something more important, never putting all your trust in one thing. Across the city, construction crews were already rebuilding, but they weren't just putting things back the way they were. Every new building, every repaired system combined human ingenuity with the lessons learned from the invasion. Sir, a communication officer called out, we're picking up signals from deep space. Other alien races have noticed what happened here. On the main screen, messages from dozens of alien civilizations appeared. Some were worried. Some were impressed. All of them wanted to know how a primitive planet had defeated the mighty Valari Empire. Show them, He-Jin ordered. Dr. Du Young activated the worldwide broadcast system they had rebuilt. It showed scenes from the battle, humans using simple machines to defeat advanced technology, ghost boxes disrupting alien shields, nanites taking apart mighty ships. But more importantly, it showed what came after. Look, he said, pointing to images of the rebuilding. We're not destroying their technology. We're not afraid of it. We're making it better by keeping it simple at its core. Dal watched in disbelief as his people's greatest achievements were taken apart and rebuilt by the humans they had tried to conquer. You're barbarians, he muttered. You destroyed perfection. No, He-Jin corrected him. We showed you that perfection is a trap. When you think you're perfect, you stop adapting. When you stop adapting, you lose. Commander Jai-yun brought in the latest reports. Earth's defenses were stronger than ever. The ghost boxes now protected every city. The nanites had built a network that could detect any approaching threat. But unlike the Valari systems, each piece could work on its own if needed. The other aliens want to talk, she said. They want to learn from us. He-Jin nodded. Tell them we're willing to share what we've learned. But first, they need to understand rule number 1. And what is that rule? Dal asked bitterly. He-Jin looked at the alien leader. Never fight fair when survival is at stake. But more than that, never think you're so advanced that you can't lose. That's what you forgot. And that's why we won. Outside, the sound of reconstruction filled the air. Earth was rising again, stronger than before. And across the galaxy, other races were learning an important lesson. The most dangerous species weren't the ones with the most advanced technology. They were the ones who remembered their simple beginnings and never forgot how to survive. 1 year after the Valari invasion, Earth had changed in ways nobody could have imagined. Captain He-Jin, now Admiral He-Jin, stood on the observation deck of humanity's first true starship, the EDF Phoenix. Below him, Earth glowed like a blue jewel. Beautiful view, isn't it? Commander Jai-yun asked, joining him at the window. She now led Earth's new defense fleet, made up of ships that combined the best of human and Valari technology. Very, He-Jin replied. And well protected. He could see the ghost box satellites orbiting the planet, ready to defend against any threat. Dr. Du Young's nanites had built them, using materials from the defeated Valari fleet. In his new laboratory aboard the Phoenix, Dr. Du Young was teaching alien scientists from across the galaxy. They came to learn not just about Earth's technology, but about human thinking. The key is never relying on just one system, he explained to his class. Look at this ghost box. It's advanced technology, yes, but inside it has simple mechanical parts that work even if everything else fails. That's the human way. Lieutenant Sunmai, now Colonel Sunmai, entered the lab with news. The Valari delegation has arrived, she reported. They're ready to sign the peace treaty. In the ship's main conference room, Representative Dal's replacement, a younger Valari named Ven, waited nervously. The once mighty Valari Empire had learned harsh lessons from their defeat on Earth. "We come seeking friendship," Ven said as Hujin entered. "We have abandoned our old ways of conquest. We want to learn from humans." Hujin nodded. "And what have you learned so far?" "That perfection is dangerous," Ven replied. "That depending too much on advanced technology makes you weak. And most importantly, the humans are the most surprising species in the galaxy." Jayun smiled. In the year since the invasion, Earth had become famous throughout space, not for having the most advanced ships or the strongest weapons, but for something else, the ability to combine old and new, simple and complex, in ways nobody else had thought of. "Show them the new defense system," Hejin said. Dr. Du Young activated a display showing Earth's protective network. "We call it the web," he explained. "Ghost boxes protect against advanced weapons. Nanites repair damage instantly. But the real genius is here." He pointed to simple mechanical backups built into every part. "Even if everything else fails, these keep working. Just like humans." The Valari delegates watched in amazement. Their own civilization had spent thousands of years trying to make everything more advanced. Humans had shown them a better way. "Don't just go forward. Remember where you came from." "The treaty is ready," Sunmai announced, bringing in the documents. They were written on both paper and digital displays, another human touch that made other species think. As they prepared to sign, a message came in from Earth. New ships had been detected entering the solar system. But unlike a year ago, Earth was ready. The web activated automatically, ghost boxes powered up, and nanites stood ready. But these weren't invaders. They were visitors from dozens of alien civilizations, coming to learn from Earth. They had heard about the planet that defeated the Valari not with superior technology, but with clever thinking and simple machines. "Look at that," Jayun said, watching the alien ships approach. "A year ago, they thought we were primitive. Now they come to us for teaching." Hejin smiled. "Because we taught them the most important lesson of all. Rule number 1 isn't just about fighting. It's about survival. About using everything you have, old and new, simple and advanced, to keep going no matter what." As the peace treaty was signed, Earth's future looked brighter than ever. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not by becoming like other advanced races, but by staying true to its roots. By remembering that sometimes the simplest solutions were the best ones. And across the galaxy, a new saying spread among alien species: "Before you fight humans, remember rule number 1. And if you've forgotten what that means, just ask the Valari. They learned it the hard way."